Simon, Joe and Bobby. I am looking for forgiveness for something I did 41 years ago. I joined the Royal Navy in September 1975 at the ripe old age of 16. And on or about the same time, Rod Stewart had a record out. You might remember it. Sailing. Everybody knew it. Everybody had it. It will become clear why I mention this in a minute. Whilst waiting for my first ship, I was stationed in Yeovilton, and during the summer of 76, the BBC showed a programme called Sailing, the signature tune for which was Sailing. For those of a certain age, they'll recall it. It was all about the exploits and adventures of the crew of HMS Ark Royal, which had happened the previous year. I thought to myself at the time, this looks like a great life, and wouldn't it be great if I could be on HMS Ark Royal? To my immense surprise, that's where I was posted. I was posted to the Ark Royal later in that year. My time in the Royal Navy had actually started with style. Shortly after joining, we heard that the one and only Rod Stewart was actually going to visit the ship in Plymouth before it sailed for the last farewell in 1978. Joe is already emotionally overcome by this story. Would you like some of my cold green tea?
Oh, I've just been gesticulating to everybody, just going, bring me some water, so hopefully water will be coming soon.
Should we pause or should we carry on?
Hot milk? Oh, Bobby's offering me hot milk. No. I think it's gone now. Carry on.
Chris Evans has left some cold tea.
No, it's okay.
Anyway, part 2. The day arrived and there was a buzz around the ship. Well, at least with the teenagers, who all gathered in the dining room to meet their pop idol, the one and only Rod Stewart. I vividly remember after the cheering and the applause had died down, a member of the crew shouting, "Hello, Elton, I've read all your books." Maybe Royal Navy humour, but everybody laughed very loudly, although I'm not sure Rod saw the funny side of it at the time. Nonetheless, he carried on with a Q&A session for about an hour, and at the end of the session, he handed out signed 45 RPM single autograph copies of Sailing. The crew gathered, and they were delighted. That's a very nice thing.
Which label was it on? It's the one with the lion
Atlantic,
on it.
Was it? No, that was...
The yellow with the lion? It was like one?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm acting it. What was it called? Anyway, moving on.
Anyway,
CBS?
There's a lot of interruptions today. It was on that label. Reaver. Was it Reaver?
Maybe. Anyway.
No one cares what label it was on, I don't think. Rod was escorted away to the captain's cabin where he probably had refreshments of some description, and as luck would have it, I worked in the captain's office, so I wasn't too far away from the continuing action. I actually shook hands with Rod outside the captain's cabin, and he offered me about 50 copies of the record that were left over from the dining room get-together. How about this? But they were unsigned. Of course I said yes and wondered what to do with them all. In those days, the Royal Navy were on the whole paid fortnightly on a Thursday, and the week in between was called a blank week. Sailors spent all their money in the first week, so were strapped for cash in the second week. I think the word blank comes from the blank space the second week left on your pay record. Rod had visited the ship on a blank week, so I saw an opportunity here to be able to afford to go ashore in blank week, which was normally never heard of. My friend and I, we're going to call him Badger, secreted ourselves in the office and forged Rod's autograph on the 50 or so leftover singles, and proceeded to sell them for 50 pence each to anyone that missed Rod's appearance earlier. Now, the cost of a single in 1978 was about 85 pence, so people were getting a bargain. Of course, the people who had been given them in the dining room were avoided. Now, honestly, can't remember how many we sold, but suffice to say, we sold pretty much most of them, and we had enough for a run ashore to Union Street and Diamond Lills. Don't ask. To this day, whenever I hear Sir Rod Stewart's name mentioned, I always remember this incident, and hopefully the collective can empathise with me for showing a bit of initiative. Some of your listeners may be ex-sailors who could see my predicament back then and may wish that they'd thought of that. If I can be forgiven, I'll be able to rest easy in my bed, says Danny. So, 50 copies of Sailing by Rod Stewart, unsigned, fake signatures done by Danny and Badger, a lot of money raised, enough to go to Union Street, Diamond Hills, in a blank week. What do you make of that, Joe? What do you say?
Well, I'd just like to confirm that the record label that Rod was signed to was actually Reaver Records, and that was the one with the lion. You did,
Did I say that? I think I did.
So you get an extra point for today. Well done.
Thank you.
2 punching the airs today for the show.
It's in honour of Gareth Southgate.
Yes.
Punch in the air.
I think we should think, what would Rod Stewart think of this? How would he react? I think Rod has a reputation. He would he?
Don't know.
Yeah.
What's his reputation?
Massive sense of humour.
Yeah, big sense of humour, but I don't know whether he'd laugh. I think he values his money. I'm scared of what I'm saying now. Anyway.
I'm even more scared. You say he's tight?
No. Anyway, I think this is not showing initiative at all, as you try to say. I think this is deceitful and it's dishonest, and you are not forgiven.
Okay. What do you say, Sister Bobby?
Well, I think Danny's a master upcycler, because Rod gave him the records and they didn't throw them away.
He's lying. He's pretending to be Rod Stewart.
Okay, well, no, normally I would say I would not forgive for impersonate, but
Okay.
I kind of think that he was there and he did touch the records himself. So in this case, it meant they weren't thrown away. It meant people invested their money and bought them and kept them and saved them.
Get out
so
of it.
I think on that case, Danny, champion of the world, Odd Bod Rod, I'm sure would go, I am fine with that. You are forgiven.